responding to a 10.
911, what is the location of your emergency?
Got bullet holes through it, came through the front wall.
Let me see your other hand. Please, both hands.
Do nothing.
Oh, shit.
Keep walking backwards. Walk straight back.
Developing news from the United States. It's in relation to the death of the unarmed black man.
During the protests over the deaths of Breonna Taylor.
George died because he needed a breath.
Enough is enough! Enough is enough!
Black and brown men and black and brown women are targeted.
The death of George Floyd, an African-American man who died in police custody.
Growing up, my parents really did a great job about educating us as children about who we are, having ancestry in Africa. We were born in New Jersey, and I'm assuming that my ancestors were slaves that came in the Carolina region. And so my dad and my mom were so intentional about giving us stories, books, history, all of these things. They also taught us about civil rights, and they taught us how to protest. So I was 5 years old, marching in my town with Al Sharpton. My dad, when he was 15, he was jumped by police officers. He almost didn't make it. He was in the hospital, and they tried to say that he was actually attacking them. And he got to court, and by the grace of God, the judge said, well, how does this young kid attack 5 grown men? And he didn't end up going to jail.
You might be able to make it home from going to get your daughter or your wife some ice cream. Me? I might not make it back home. I might not make it back home because of the skin that I have.
When we as a society say, hey, this group of people is not even getting basic human rights, like the basic right to live and exist and to go for a run.
Ahmaud Arbery was shot to death while jogging in February. The incident has sparked outrage and drawn national attention to Georgia and its justice system.
I think that we have to just reevaluate what we're doing as a collective and how the powers that be are oppressing those who are just trying to just exist. Just this idea that people, including myself, face injustices every day, it really drives me because I want everyone to have the same freedoms. I want everyone to be okay.
Poverty is directly linked to imprisonment rates.
Every teenage boy growing up can go either way, but the son of a single young woman is pressured to go the wrong way every time he steps onto these streets.
Poor people are disproportionately affected by this because there is a lack of resources and a lack of caring for these people that perhaps just need access to quality education, access to resources that will lead ultimately to them not having to make decisions that could potentially land them in prison.
Bernard was shot and robbed by 2 teenagers when he was 15. 4 months later, he was arrested for carrying a gun. That is not unusual. Nearly half of young men in the inner city are arrested before they reach 18.
I was raised in a family of 12. My dad was absent. He wasn't nowhere around. And that was a tough situation not to have guidance. My other brothers and sisters, you know, they had a tough time as well. You know, in a family of 12, our mom did everything that she can do to try to take care of us. Even she worked 2 jobs.
Most of my white friends, they have a grandfather and a father, and they're providing for their kids. Most black men don't have that.
My mom would come to the streets and she would say things like, come off the streets. And I would tell her, just let me die here in the streets because the streets is what I like. And so drugs really took me out the game. And I remember, my family, they loved to party, drink, and do all those things. And I found myself so strung out on crack cocaine that it landed me in prison. And while doing time in the prison system, I found myself living the same way I lived in society, drugs, drinking, all those things that was happening inside the prison.
So what happens if someone that's incarcerated does not have access to a certain program that will help them transition back into society is that they will find themselves perhaps making the same decisions that landed them in the detention center initially if they don't have support from a community to give them the resources that they need just to survive. There's a very high chance that they might land back where they're at.
My name is Lewis. I am from Queens, New York, born and raised. I am from Hillsong Church and represent Prison Fellowship. It is so difficult, especially if it is a felony. It is nearly impossible to land a job that they can survive on. Corporations absolutely frown upon those who are imprisoned, especially if you're a minority.
Getting out of jail, I would have loved to have a good job. I've actually ran into those situations that jobs have hired me and told me like, yo, you're not good enough. You're not good enough just because you have felonies. I went to Baruch, so I was in school and I was told like, yo, you want a bachelor's in finance, but no firm is gonna hire you.
Just because someone does something that compromises another person's freedom doesn't mean that that's it for them. So making sure that there are people to say like, hey, God loves you, you're valuable, you can live another life. And so that when they are released, they can go and have opportunity and be a part of our society in a great and meaningful way.
Our goals are to bring the gospel to those incarcerated and give them the proper tools that when they are released to be able to re-enter to society with a different outlook on life.
If a person's mind is not being transformed through the power of God, he's going to fall subject to everything that's going on in the prison system. That's why you see men and women, when they do walk back out of the system, you wonder why. Why come they go back to the streets and do what they do? Because everything that was in the world is inside of the prison system. My mom used to always tell me things like, you need church. And I always tell her things like, I really don't want to have nothing to do with church. And if it wasn't for Prison Fellowship and me going to Prison Fellowship Academy, I don't believe that I will be sitting right here today, because that academy gave me what I need to be able to survive and to live in life. But it was God using Prison Fellowship Academy to impact my life.
Liberty is freedom. Like the other word for liberty is freedom. The worst thing you could do to a person is to kill their voice. I just realized a few months ago that my voice matters from just marching with my church and hearing all the people in the building screaming, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. I was like, that was the first time where I felt like I didn't have to raise my hand or can I speak, or you know what I'm saying? Like that was big for me. So I feel like being oppressed is like taking my voice and honestly, I can't breathe. Like what do you expect people to do if you have cripples pushed down, not cared about, sheltered, put duct tape on their voice for 400 years?
It takes a lot of times tragedy and very brave individuals to start a movement.
What's up, everybody? It's Steve, and Saturday morning out here in Jersey, just getting done with the run. Man, I am so excited for what is to come.
Definitely sweaty, but I absolutely made the right choice.
We wanted to do something that was extreme, and so my colleague Steve Saboto, who is also an Ironman triathlete and an ultra runner and all of the great athletic things, and a pastor, the thought was, hey, wouldn't it be amazing if we did some crazy relay and just ran all the way from New York to DC?
When it comes to what we're doing with Prison Fellowship, you know, easiest way for me to put it in my mind is, hey, we're gonna help people that are coming out of prison, coming out of a lifestyle that maybe they're wondering, man, will life ever look differently? We're gonna, you know, run from New York to DC. Why? To help people.
Hearing about what we were actually running for gave me a sense of almost empowerment. I feel very powerless sometimes to affect the institutional level, you know, discrimination and inequality. And this just feels like an opportunity where I can bring something to the table.
Hey, this isn't just some fun run. I want to help be a part of making a change.
This is probably one of the most ambitious things I've ever done in my life. I'm just curious to see if I could pull it off.